Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. I have to apologize. Every single post of today's show has typos in it. I was just mentioning to my guest, Dr. Jason Cholewa, that I think that all of my browsers stopped spell checking. And if it did, there's a conspiracy theory to make me look stupid. And I'm not stupid, so I'll get that fixed after the show. I don't know what happened. But anyway, we have a really good show today. We're going to be talking today, to start off with, about training methodology. You know, most people just go to the gym. I have so many friends that are doing exactly what they were doing 5 years ago today at the gym. And training methodology is something that's lost on them. They don't even think about it. They just think, hey, just showing up is adequate, and it's not. So we're going to talk today about training methodology. After that, we'll be joined by, why am I going to forget his name now? We'll be joined by Logan Cristopher. We were supposed to do this show last week, but I screwed up with an email. And so Logan's coming on today. Not everything about phytoestrogens is bad. And we're going to discuss the benefits of phytoestrogens. And then my second monologue today will be why building your body should be approached the same way that you take care of your home. So that's a little bit later in the show. Before we do anything, we have to thank our title sponsor, and that's Legendary Foods. The Pop-Tart has been reimagined. There's nothing like it. You know, I've said this before, but I've got to say it again. You cannot get your children to eat a healthy snack. If it doesn't taste like a real bad thing to eat, they don't want to eat it. But they will eat the tasty pastry because they taste like real cake. The filling tastes like real sugar. But the reality is that it's less than 1 gram of sugar, 20 grams of high-quality protein, and 4 to 5 net carbs for those of us who watch our carbs. If you go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10, you'll save 10% off. I promise you, once you buy them, be prepared because you'll never want to be without them again. It's just the facts. And without any further delay, let me get Dr. Jason Cholewa on the show. How you doing, Dr. Cholewa?
Doing well, Carl. Thank you.
A lot of people just go to the gym and they think that's adequate. And it's kind of like showing up for school but not really taking any classes, right? You know what I mean? It's like people think, oh, all I have to do is go to the gym, push this, pull that, do some cardio, and I'm doing what I need to do. Few people actually ever think about methodology. Why is that?
It's a good question. I'm not really sure. I think, well, possibly because, we're influenced by what we see from the various sources of fitness influencers. And I don't just mean that in the sense of today's world of people on Instagram and TikTok putting out wild videos to trying to get views. But, think back to when I got involved first in training back in the late 90s when I was in high school. And most of my sources of information were Muscle and Fitness, Flex Magazine, right? These bodybuilding magazines. And so in those bodybuilding magazines, I believe like the routines weren't even what a lot of the bodybuilders were doing, but rather a writer was writing it up and using pictures of Flex Wheeler or Ronnie Coleman or Dorian Yates or whoever, and saying like, this is their routine and we're going to crush back today with X, Y, Z. But as I think back on that, that's not really a plan. There's no foresight in there. What we have is some exercises and some sets and some reps to do on one single day. And that's kind of it. where do we go from there? Do we keep doing that same thing ad infinitum, or do we do something different the next time we go back to the gym? Or how long should we follow that program for before we make some changes? What type of results should we start to see when it's time to make changes, or to indicate that it's time to make some sort of changes? And then what sort of changes should we make? And so I think as humans, we're just kind of focused on the here and now. Foresight or thinking future facing is a little bit difficult for us, especially thinking, 6 months, a year, several years down the road when it comes to training, especially for someone who is just starting to get into it or really hasn't made a lot of progress. And so we can get pretty inundated with all the different tips and thoughts out there, and not really give a lot of thought to what we're actually doing and trying to achieve.
So I think part of the problem is that people see going to the gym as the goal. Like and that would be tantamount to me saying, I want a college education, so I'm just going to show up at Hunter College in New York. It's a great college. I'm just show up every day. And we joked off the air, right? Usually you select a major, which could be seen as a goal, a long-term goal, unless you are a liberal arts major, and then you're just kind of, it's marking time. But usually you select a major. That's your long-term goal. And then your short-term goals are all the different classes that are prerequisites for you to achieve your long-term goal. And so if you're studying something that requires anatomy and physiology a couple semesters, but then maybe there's some physics involved because you have to use formulary like I did when I was in school for optometry. And then once you accumulate all of those, then you've basically accumulated all the steps to your final goal. But I don't think people think about goals other than, I want to look good naked, to steal Dr. Brad Schoenfeld's title of his book. I just want to look good naked. I don't care about anything else. And that's kind of this amorphous, abstract goal. And we hear from people who promote motivation that, you have to crystallize your goal. You have to say specifically what it is you want. You can't just say, I want to be rich. You have to say, these steps, I want to achieve these steps. So let's talk about goals for a second. What could we say appropriate goals would be for somebody who is thinking about going to the gym for the first time?
Yeah, that's a great point that you bring up, in that goal setting is kind of a skill. Right? It's not something you just do. It's something you need to work on and refine. And also, a lot of the goals that are set by people who just get into fitness are very ambiguous. They are, I want to be more fit, or I want to look better, or I want to lose weight. There's no timeline to them. There's no quantification to them. And there's not really any sort of process to those goals either. And so one thing that I teach my students in class is what's known as setting SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So not just I want to lose weight, but I want to lose what kind of weight in what kind of time, and is this healthy and realistic for that person? But not only that, if we're going to have this large outcome goal, so let's say that we're talking about someone who is, we'll use weight loss still as an example here, since it's a pretty popular goal for a lot of people who join the gym. I don't need to tell you that 60% of our society or Americans are obese, and that's probably an underestimate. Mm-hmm. Anyways, and so let's say we set the goal of I want to lose weight. Well, what how much, in what time frame. And we're often influenced by, let's say, The Biggest Loser, where the contestants lose, I don't know, 100 pounds in what, like 3 months or something?
In 4 days.
Yeah.
They had 2 limbs removed.
Right. Yeah, I use that example too.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of unrealistic goals out there. And if you go through Instagram and whatnot too, then we see just a lot of these unrealistic expectations. And so for someone who's been overweight their entire life, or for a great portion of their adult life, and maybe has failed at losing weight in the past, then setting a goal of losing 50 pounds in a year, which isn't exactly unrealistic, it's a pound a week, may seem like a very daunting task. It may seem very overwhelming. And so, what people often struggle with is breaking that down into more achievable goals, or what we might call like intermediate goals. So, losing a certain amount of weight per month. And then, what is the process to lose that weight? What type of nutrition plan should I follow? What type of exercise should I do? Recovery, supplements, et cetera, mostly diet and exercise. And then what we need to do is to forget about the outcome goal, forget about losing 50 pounds in a year. In fact, from the day to day, we need to forget about losing those 4 or so pounds per month. And what we need to focus on is the process, these what are called marginal gains. You eat healthy for one day, you exercise for one day. It's not going to provide you any sort of measurable results. I mean, you might feel better about yourself for that day or two, but it's not going to provide you any sort of measurable results. But if day in and day out, we focus on the process and doing a good job following that process, putting effort into it, being conscious of what we're doing, then after 30 days of following it, we should see the scale start to move. And after 60 days of following it, the scale is going to start to move farther. And the more we focus on that process, the more those are going to become habits that are ingrained within us, that are going to become things that we do. So, for example, most people wake up in the morning, and at some point in those morning hours, they brush their teeth. That's a habit. And that's what we want to see happen with diet and exercise, or nutrition and exercise, for these things to kind of become habits. And not only that, but the more consistent you are with it, the less of a big deal it is, both psychologically and physiologically, if you use the cliche term here, fall off the wagon. So let's say you have a rough week for whatever reason, personal issues, work issues, you name it. And during that week, you don't eat very healthy. Maybe you eat some very calorie-rich foods, some comfort foods, and you don't exercise. Well, the longer that you've been following a healthy nutrition plan and exercising, the less of a detriment that's going to be, because you can very easily pick it up back where you left off.
I agree. Holly Hickman Daniel said she's listening while walking before a work call. Thank you for listening. Thanks for some brain fuel. A note that goal setting and achieving little goals along the way is very rewarding along the way. And short-term goals are important to maintaining the path to long-term ultimate goal achievement, which is really what you're just saying. If you think about driving somewhere, you have your GPS turned on, and the first thing it has you do is make a left out of your driveway, and you do that. That's a short-term goal. And then it has you make a left out of your subdivision. That's another short-term goal. And getting from point A to point B is a series of connecting short-term steps or goals to your final destination. We do this all the time. And I think the real problem when it comes to health and fitness for people is they don't know the right questions to ask themselves to establish short-term goals. For instance, I'm going to be absurd. I want to lose weight. Well, you can lose a lot of weight if you get cancer. Oh, no, I don't want to lose that kind of weight. Sure. I want to lose weight. Would you be willing to lose weight if you had to give up 50% of your muscle in the process? Absolutely not. Frailty is a major cause of death today. So, and I'm going to put your next bullet up here because it fits nicely, because I know that you want to talk about specificity as it relates to the training style, but specificity has to start earlier in the equation. You have to specify. Like for me, it was easy. I just wanted to get strong. So adding a plate over a period of time was a short-term goal. And I focused on strength, and I lost 100 pounds because in order to get stronger, I had to follow these other little steps, like get to sleep early, like eat a diet that was made from nutrient-rich foods. Because believe me, there's no such thing as overtraining. There's only undereating. And we talked about that study on the show. So I had all these little goals, these day-to-day goals, and I focused on those only. I did not focus on, I can't wait to squat 405. But all those goals and going in and training and adding small amounts of weight, and so I think really when we talk about specificity, and we're going to talk about specificity of training styles too, I think people need to be a lot clearer on what they want. And I think people feel funny. Like my nephew said, I want to look like Zac Efron. Okay, now he's there. He's muscular, he's ripped. That was his goal. I think that people need to be much more specific than I want to lose weight or I want to be healthy, because those have no real meaning.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I just want to really quick acknowledge, it was Holly, right? That just posted that. Yeah, I just really want to thank Holly really quick and acknowledge what she said, because as a professional, fitness professional or health professional, it's important to demonstrate to your patients and clients that they are making progress. And so, especially for people who are trying to lose weight and just starting out, we're probably not going to see very much progress in the mirror, and probably none at all over the first few months. And especially if the person is unfit and has a low exercise tolerance, we're not going to see a lot of progress in terms of weight loss in the first couple months, because that person just doesn't have the exercise tolerance to burn a lot of calories in the gym. But kind of to Holly's point, if we can show progress that they are getting fitter, whether that is they're becoming, or should be a combination of that, they're becoming stronger, they can do more weight on whatever exercises that they're doing, their endurance is increasing. Maybe they were walking at like a 3.5 mile an hour speed with, I don't know, 2% incline, and now they're able to do that same speed with 4% incline. All of these are showing that that person is making progress toward their goal, and that reward and that sense of, okay, I'm accomplishing something, I'm on my way to achieving this goal, is going to help to reaffirm confidence in that process, which is something we often lose. So again, Holly, thank you for that comment.
And this discussion segues nicely into progressive overload. So I don't care if you are someone who is very ill. You start where you are. And let's say you're so ill that walking is troublesome for you. So you watch TV and you stand up during the commercial breaks. That could be your first step, your first foray into reversing. And then maybe over time, you're able to walk around the sofa during the commercial breaks and then sit back down when your show starts. And then maybe over time, you think, I think I can walk around the entire perimeter of the room. What we're talking about here is progressive steps, progress. And in the case of weightlifting, overload, right? You want to overload your muscles. You want to challenge them with greater weight or more reps, more volume. There's lots of ways to establish these goals of progressive overload. But progressive is the key here. I don't care what you're doing. If you're just doing cardio every day, you should be able to do more cardio. You should be able to do a higher speed. You should be able to do a steeper incline. But if you are not focusing on progression, if you're going into the gym and doing the same machine press day in and day out, week in and week out, you are not doing yourself any service at all. What do you think? Am I being too hard on people?
No, you're absolutely correct. The principle of progressive overload basically states that we have these molecular pathways within our muscles, within our tissues for that matter, not just muscles. And those molecular pathways, when they are activated, lead to the synthesis of proteins, and those proteins carry out certain tasks. So those proteins could be related to mitochondria that allow us to have greater endurance. They could be related to the structural proteins and the contractile proteins in muscle that allow muscle to get larger and stronger, and the list goes on and on. But the point is that for those pathways to be turned on or activated, whatever term we want to use here, it requires a stimulus that is above some sort of threshold. And so if you're not presenting your tissues with a stimulus that is above that threshold, there will be no adaptation. And the other thing to note is that that threshold will increase as you become more fit. And so to continually make progress, you need to do a little bit more. Now, like you said, Carl, that little bit more could come in the form of more repetitions. It could come in the form of more weight, more volume, and shorter rest periods if we're talking about resistance training.
Density, correct.
Yeah. And so this kind of doubles back to specificity, right? We can divide our goals when it comes to resistance training, let's say, into 4 major categories. And those categories being, and there's a lot of crossover too in these categories. They're definitely not silos. So muscular endurance, the ability to generate a sub-maximal amount of force for prolonged periods of time. So think about like cycling up a hill or rowing or doing sets of greater than 15 or 20 repetitions. Muscle hypertrophy, which is muscles growing in size. And I think this is what most people who go to the gym want to achieve some of, at least most people in the lay population. A lot of women, and I'm generalizing here, but a lot of women want to get more toned if you ask them what their goals are. And tone is nothing more than the product of muscular development, so some muscle hypertrophy, and a reduction in body fat.
Yes, leanness.
Exactly. So if you want that toned look, then you need to build some muscle. Muscular strength is the ability to generate a maximal amount of force without any sort of regard for time. So think about doing a 1 repetition maximum back squat, or trying to lift a car or something. And then lastly is muscular power, which is generating force very, very rapidly. So think about being explosive or jumping real high or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important to kind of specify what your goal is. Now, the nice thing about muscle hypertrophy, what most people want to achieve, is that over the past decade or two, studies have came out and shown that you have a lot of options. So if you want to generate muscle hypertrophy and you like lifting really heavy weights, you can do that. If you want to increase your muscle hypertrophy and you don't want to lift heavy weights, you want to lift lighter weights, like sets of 20 or 30, you can do that as well. Mm-hmm. But in between is kind of the sweet spot, which is probably about in the 8 to 15 rep range. Because to provide the stimulus with these sets of 20 or 30, you got to go to failure. And I don't think a lot of people understand what failing with a set of 20 or 30 feels like. I'm sure you have experienced this, Carl. It's it's brutal.
It's grueling. It's grueling. And in fact, I used to use, I used to convince myself when I was starting to gas out that like stopping now would be tantamount to paying my mortgage for 30 years and the last payment defaulting. Like I used to call it training equity. Like I have to finish this set because I'm at 17 now. If I bail on these 3, I lose everything. So you have to, and that's where will comes from. Willpower, strength is developed in the brain first, to be honest with you. You have to be willing to step outside your comfort zone and a lot of times manage pain. But yeah, it's a lot easier to stay in the 8 to 15 rep range, there's no doubt. And I've been training with ARX. That thing's a game changer because of the negatives that I'm able to do with heavy weight safely. So, and that's another example of, yet again, another way to build muscle and strength.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so 8 to 15 is kind of that sweet spot for increasing muscle hypertrophy. For most people who are going to the gym and want to become more fit, that 8 to 15 rep range is going to increase muscular strength, although not to the same extent as if you were to do really heavy weights.
Right.
It's going to increase muscular endurance, though not to the same extent as if you were to do sets of 20 to 40. Mm-hmm. And it's going to drive muscle hypertrophy in an efficient manner that is relatively tolerable for most people.
Yeah, very good. So when we talk about specificity, once again, it comes back to your goals too, which we talked about earlier, because you have to understand what your goals are in order to choose the specific things that you want to do. And you can do them all. You can do cardio, you can do resistance training that's designed to build strength. You can do the types of things like plyometric stuff that's designed to build explosive power, and you can do them all in a given week. I don't know who came up with the idea that you had to hit every body part in 1 week, but I made some of my greatest gains in strength when I was focusing on powerlifting by training 1 day on and 2 days off, which meant that training cycle for me was 9 days. It's like your body doesn't go, oh, you got to do this every week. No, you got to fit into the routine, all the things you want to do into a given training cycle. And that could be longer than a week. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree. This kind of goes to like the last part to touch on, which is as we talk about these 4 principles: progressive overload, specificity, variation, and fatigue management. The last principle is individualization or individuality. And no 2 people adapt the same to exercise, even if they're twins. And in fact, you can make the argument that you yourself do not adapt the same to exercise over the course of time. Like I think about what I could do when I was 25 and the type of volume and frequency I could handle. And now I'm 40 and I think about the type of volume and frequency I can handle.
Yeah, wait till you get to 64. Remember this conversation.
Yeah, and they are not the same. And so you're not the same person that you were a year ago.
Well, and to channel Mike Mentzer, the stronger you get, the more time you need off because you make greater inroads into muscle damage and nervous system recovery.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if you look at powerlifters and you look at like the top powerlifters in the world right now, the lighter weight powerlifters, despite the fact that they can lift more weight relative to body mass, typically train more frequently than the heavier weight powerlifters. And at some point, like, even if you're only doing 2 times your body mass, 600 pounds for a 300 pound man, right? And 300 pounds for a 150 pound man or human, whatever. There's a big difference in that loading on all those tissues.
Yeah.
And so definitely there is that lens of individualization to view everything through. I want to draw a quick figure on my whiteboard. Can I do that?
Yes, of course.
All right.
Of course.
Just one last thing with regards to progressive overload. See it okay? The glare's not too bad?
Yeah, no, it's fine. We can see it.
All right, cool. I have to unplug my...
Okay.
So on the horizontal axis, we have time. And on the vertical axis, we have our progressive overload.
Okay.
And what we see here, I'm going to draw 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, 2, and 3. And we can talk about progressive overload. We can talk about like percent of gains, whatever you want to use here. But the slower to extent that we progress the overload, so the slower the rate of overload progression will be, the longer we can train before reaching a plateau, and the higher we will be able to get to before reaching said plateau.
So theoretically, what you're saying is if you really want to get as strong as you can, you have to be patient. You can't go, you can't go into the gym and go right from a 150-pound bench press to a 400-pound bench press. Well, you won't. You'll staple yourself to the bench, but you have to be patient because the supercompensation process, nervous system, tissue creation, and so on and so forth, is a slow process, and it's slow from an evolutionary standpoint for a reason, and that is muscle is metabolically expensive, and the body doesn't want to grow muscle unless it absolutely has to, unless you challenge it over and over again with these feats of strength where it says, oh my God, like if we don't get stronger, we're going to fail as humans. So there's negative regulation of muscle working against you, which I'm going to talk to about in my monologue. But yeah, this makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that old adage that slow and steady wins the race kind of applies to how we apply progressive overload as well.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I want to talk about fatigue management because that's a really big one that people don't think about. And overtraining is the pox. You'll actually start regressing. You'll start losing strength. And your sleep will suck. And there's a lot of signs to overtrain. So we'll talk about that when we come back. We're talking right now with Dr. Jason Cholewa. And this is kind of a primer. A lot of people need to hear this again. They know it, but they forget it in their journey. And for those of you who have not been training and you're thinking, I would like to start going to the gym. I would like to start improving the quality of my fitness and my health. This is a good discussion. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more. Hey, you've heard me talk about Masszymes from Bioptimizers for years now. It's a safe and natural digestive enzyme supplement that's for men or women that specifically helps you digest the protein in your diet. I never have a meal without at least 3 Masszyme capsules, and that's because I want every bit of amino acids from the protein I eat day in and day out to help this 64-year-old body continue to build new muscle and strength. Well, I can tell you how you can get a free bottle of Masszymes plus 3 free ebooks as a bonus, total gift worth over $81. You'll not only receive a free bottle of the best digestive enzyme for turning all the protein you eat into muscle-building amino acids, but you'll also receive the book From Sick to Superhuman, Plant-Based Superfood Delights, and the Ultimate Carnivore Cookbook, absolutely free with your free bottle of Masszymes. Take advantage of this opportunity fast because it won't last long. Go to shrnetwork.biz/freemassme, that's FREEMASSME, and see why I will never stop taking Masszymes. GHKCU is one of the most effective peptides for rebuilding more youthful skin, reversing skin damage, diminishing wrinkles, and tightening loose skin. I personally use Restoracell with GHKCU every day. It's making an undeniable difference in the quality of my skin. Restoracell is fantastic for all types of skin. Now you can order Restoracell and save 25% when you use the code SHR25. That's SHR25. While you may be diligent in your workouts and your diet, don't neglect what people see first and foremost, and that's your skin. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blue and use code SHR25 today. The Hercules Pre-Workout from Lost Empire Herbs is like no pre-workout you have ever had before. Completely natural formula designed specifically to optimize workouts, provide quicker recovery time, provide adequate nutrition, and get you away from all those no-good, overstimulating pre-workout supplements on the market today. The Hercules Pre-Workout blend is a mix of extracted natural herbs and mineral pitch. No fake colors, no added flavors, nothing else. Not only will Hercules Pre-Workout formula help your workouts, but you'll likely discover lots and lots of side effects, beneficial side effects. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Lost Empire today to learn more.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Are you suffering from signs of an unhappy gut? Diversity is the key to healthy, robust inner ecosystem. Body Ecology probiotic liquids are made by fermenting organic seeds, biodynamic brown rice, and chickpeas together to create a diverse culture found nowhere else on Earth. It's the secret to restoring your gut's microbiome for a healthier digestive tract, improved immune function, and longevity. Take 20% off by visiting the website shrnetwork.biz/bodyeco. shrnetwork.biz/bodyeco. That's BODYECO. And using the code SHR20.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. Don't hate us because we feel good.
Welcome back. So, I was just having a coughing spell. I have terrible allergies. I have no reason to have such bad allergies, but I do. Okay, fatigue management. Talk about that.
So successive training results in what's known as the accumulation of fatigue. It's pretty hard to directly measure fatigue, but we do know that following even a single training session, fatigue will be present. Some of that fatigue is going to be metabolic, so the production of hydrogen ions, potassium ions outside of the cell, inorganic phosphates, etc. So some of it is due to the metabolism of producing energy, and those byproducts can lead to fatigue, or so it's thought. Some of that fatigue is neurological, and then some of it is also due to tissue damage, which the process of tissue damage, if you imagine your muscle cell as a balloon, then exercise, especially intense exercise with lots of eccentrics, can cause micro tears in that balloon. It can also cause damage to the internal structures, and those constituents that should be inside the cell leak, so to speak, outside of the cell and interact with nerves that relay that information to your brain. And as a result of that, immune cells will come to the area and try to break down those various proteins. They'll release inflammatory molecules, and that will also further that sensation of what's known as delayed onset muscle soreness, as well as fatigue. And so one single session causes this, but also intense training over time, this fatigue begins to accumulate, and we can actually start to see performance plateau, and then performance actually can start to decrease. This is what's known as overreaching. If recovery isn't prioritized, then that overreaching can lead to a state of what's called non-functional overreaching, or possibly even overtraining, where it takes a period of time of backing off training or rest to allow that performance to rebound.
In fact, powerlifters will take a detraining phase where they go in and they squat and they deadlift and they bench press, but they use maybe 50 or 60% of their normal training weight and go through the motions. A lot of people think that's kind of active recovery. Some people don't do it at all, but there are a lot of powerlifters who do detrain. I'm sure you're familiar with this process as well, right? Where you just kind of go through the motions. The brain likes it. You're still active. You don't get the stress levels like you're going to do a max lift. It's fun. It's all of a sudden it's fun, and you're recovering at the same time. Have you ever employed detraining?
Yeah, I do. Just so we got the right terminology, detraining is where you stop training altogether and lose your gains. But deloading is kind of what you're describing.
That's
yes,
deloading.
Yeah, I do. I there was a time where I was like, oh, I don't want to take a week off. I don't want to go light. Now I look forward to it. Like by the time I get to an end of a training block, I'm feeling pretty beat up physically and mentally, and my joints are starting to feel it. It takes more caffeine, more motivation and willpower to get through those workouts. And by that time, I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, there's a number of ways to taper or to deload to allow for this type of recovery. The ones that I'm most familiar with are with regards to resistance training. I'm not really up on all the endurance aerobic training ways to kind of taper. But that's right. Yeah. So one way to manage fatigue is to either have scheduled deload periods. So maybe once every anywhere from 4 to 10 weeks, depending upon your level of fitness, how hard you're training, your frequency, your intensity, so on and so forth, to take a lighter week to allow for recovery to happen. Usually the way that I do it with myself and my clients is I'll cut all my sets back to only 2 or 3, and I'll use maybe 66% of the heaviest weight that I achieved in that training block.
When I was training as a powerlifter, I tried doing things Leo Costa's way, where you flirt with overtraining. It didn't work for me because I tended to be aggressive. I use lots of caffeine. Everybody knows, I was using a gram a day, and obviously that kind of takes your body hostage. I was using drugs, most notably trenbolone, which makes you feel sick as a dog, but you go in and you do amazing things that you never thought you could do. I tended to write my training down ahead of time based on my last training session and my goal, and I stuck to it. I actually looked at it like a prescription. So even if I felt like I could get one more rep, I didn't do it because I saved that for the next workout. And the truth is, when I trained that way, I did very well and never injured myself. It wasn't until I got older and I had a training partner. He was really, really bad for me. His name was Ego. And whenever he and I trained together, I always tore a muscle or injured myself. I don't even talk to him anymore, actually. He's such an asshole. But no, really, it's a when I followed my training guideline like a prescription, I never got in trouble. I didn't have to take as long off, but I did take 5 days off every 8 weeks. That was like 4. I just took off. I didn't worry about training. I ate what I always got stronger when I came back. I was never weaker. And I think people underestimate time off. I really do. I really do.
Mm-hmm. I agree. The muscle mass and strength are relatively easy to hang on to compared to muscular power and speed. If you stop training for a week, you won't lose any muscle mass, at least none that is appreciable. And the strength that you lose is mostly just going to be a neurological result of not having practiced that movement, and will come back really quickly. So, yeah, I agree. In my younger days, it was like like sacrilege to take a week off.
Right.
But I think for the average person that is not training for some sort of very specific competitive outcome, whether that is to actually compete on a platform in terms of a power lifter, or if that is their own competitive outcome of, I want to squat 500 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the very intense specific way I'm going to get there. But I think for like the average person, then, and this kind of includes myself now too, is I try to plan my deloads and my off time around my life. So for example, at the end of August, I'm going up to Connecticut for a wedding. So that week will be a deload week. And then those travel days and the wedding day will be my off days. And I'll just plan for, to work up to essentially a peak a week before that. And I think for most people, they can do that as well.
Do you subscribe to the theory that there's no such thing as overtraining, there's only undereating?
I don't, but I also think that a lot of people who think they're overtraining are not overtraining, because we've seen overtraining syndrome in athletes, and those athletes that do reach that overtraining syndrome, despite having a entire personnel of sports medicine doctors, of nutritionists, of therapists, etc. They're training for 5 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week, really intensely. So for those individuals, they are actually reaching a state of overtraining, and it can be measured with not only seeing reductions in performance, but also
sleep disturbances, hormonal changes. I mean, all of it.
Yeah, if you were to take a blood sample, it would probably look like they were sick. Their white blood cell count would be elevated, inflammatory biomarkers would be through the roof, etc. But now, with that in mind, for most people that are training an hour, maybe 2 hours a day, 3 to 5 days a week, then for most of those individuals, it's probably not the fact that they're doing too much training, but the fact that they are not properly recovering. And that could be due to undereating, especially in fit individuals. We kind of see what's a J-shaped curve in regards to exercise and appetite, where people who are sedentary, their appetites far exceed the amount of calories they burn. And people who are doing a moderate amount of exercise, then appetite and energy expenditure is matched. And then people who are doing higher and higher volumes of exercise, we see the mismatch in the opposite direction, where appetite is not meeting energy expenditure. So
it sounds like, from an evolutionary perspective, all that makes sense, right? The overweight person, the body wants to maintain that real estate, tissue real estate. And the person who is training too much and their appetite is going away because the body wants you to stop. Stop this nonsense. We're not going to stay with you. We're just going to shut off your appetite, and you're just going to lose all your gas. So it really makes a lot of sense.
It does. I mean, forgot what biologists said this, but basically they said nothing in biology makes sense unless you look at it through the lens of evolution. Yep.
It was a game changer. The Dr. Daniel Lieberman, when he first came on the show the first time after the story of the human body.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
I read that book one night, and I had done some shrooms, and I was reading it, and I remember looking at my hands, because I'm dark, holding that book, and I thought, I'm one step away from a chimpanzee. Like, I don't know why, but my hands look like chimpanzees' hands. And I just remember thinking to myself, when you look at things through the evolutionary lens, everything makes sense. You understand why the body reacts the way it does. It's fascinating stuff.
Yep.
We're going to take I'm sorry.
Oh, no. We can return to this if we need to take a break.
Well, when we come back, I want to talk about individualization, because this is the hardest part for people, because it requires an investment in time in learning your body. But what better thing to do than to learn you instead of worrying about what everybody else does? Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today. There have been no new innovations in men's underwear for hundreds of years. That's all about to change with Sheath. Sheath creates 2 separate compartments for your man stuff, so it doesn't get smashed into a mound and sweaty and stinky. I won't wear any other underwear now that I've learned about Sheath, and you won't either. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Sheath underwear. That's SHEATHUNDERWEAR. Use code SUPERHUMAN to save 20% off. I promise you, once you try a pair of Sheath underwear, you will never wear anything else. Are you 35 or older? Every year after puberty, your growth hormone decreases sometimes by 50% by the age of 35, and it only keeps going down from there. This affects everything from making it harder to recover from workouts, sleep, and a general loss of a sense of well-being. It also affects your ability to get and stay lean. BioPro Plus is the first of its kind, 100% non-synthetic alternative to prescription synthetic growth hormone treatments. All the benefits without any of the needles or side effects, and 100% safe. Previously only available through doctors, you can go to shrnetwork.biz/biopro, that's BIOPRO, and use code SHR30 for $30 off today. Never before has a product been so appropriately named as Botanic Tonics Feel Free. This plant-based elixir combines a variety of different effective compounds, all from raw plant materials that at different doses provide you with completely different experiences. A third of a bottle puts you in the zone and makes you very focused and is ideal for a non-stimulating pre-workout. It also has a mild analgesic effect for us older lifters who have soreness and little pains and aches that keep us from training as ferociously as we want. A half a bottle will create a mild euphoric effect that will allow you to forego consuming alcohol but still be socially lubricated and have fun. I have never had a product deliver on its name the way Botanic Tonics Feel Free does, and I won't ever be without it, and you shouldn't either. Go to shrnetwork.biz/feel free and use the code SHR40 for 40% off your first order. I promise you, you will not be disappointed.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low carb.
This is the Superhuman Channel, doing reps with the weight of the world.
Welcome back. We're talking with Dr. Jason Cholewa. We're talking about training. Training strategies, training protocols, what you should think about when you approach training. You know, the gym is a modern substitute for manual labor. It wasn't always that way. Thousands of years ago, the Greco-Romans created the gymnasia because they wanted to get stronger and better. They put a lot of value in strength, which we don't anymore. In fact, people laugh at people who want to be strong and try to embarrass them. Just go to any Planet Fitness. But with that being said, we don't work anymore. We don't toil anymore. We don't get up in the morning and stop moving until it gets dark out. And so we have to artificially recreate this, because from an evolutionary perspective, we are designed to expend energy. We are designed to teach the body to increase its abilities through supercompensation. And you got to go to the gym. I'm going to talk about this at the end of the show today, but the only studies that show increased longevity and health span in humans, not rodents, not dogs, is the noble pursuit of gaining strength and muscle. It's not rapamycin, it's not CoQ10, it's not your favorite reishi mushrooms, and it's definitely not the nonsense that Dave Asprey is promoting, that he's going to live to 108 years old and he's taking a multivitamin. The noble acquisition of muscle and strength is the only thing that will make you live longer and healthier. And science has shown this. So embrace it. Get to the damn gym. So let's talk now about the best part of all of this, but the most frustrating because it takes time, and that is individualization. Talk about that.
Some of it, I think, is self-explanatory, and we've all experienced ourselves, is that no two people adapt alike to the same stimulus. As scientists, most of the way that we express data is with means and with standard deviations. So the mean is essentially the average of that data set. And then the standard deviation is, for lack of a better way to put this, on average, how far away from the average is each individual. Right? So if we have a data set, let's say, that shows that after 10 weeks of training, people on average gained 10 kilograms of strength plus or minus 5. What that means is that 68% of those people gained somewhere between 5 and 15 kilograms of strength. And 95% of those people gained somewhere between 0 and 20 kilograms of strength. 97.5 actually lost some strength, so gained -5 kilograms, or really just was a hyper responder and gained 25 kilograms. And what this shows is that there is a very large inter-individual variation in the response to exercise, of all kinds of exercise, resistance training, aerobic training, etc. Some people are hyper responders. Maybe you've seen these people. We call them genetic freaks. They look at a weight and they get stronger and muscular. And some people are actually non-responders, where they make virtually no progress or actually lose strength as a result of exercise. And the rest of us fall somewhere in between.
And when it comes to diet, individualization is another very important thing. And this is, so I'm a big fan of MyFitnessPal for tracking your diet. And it takes you about 2 weeks, because the average person eats the same 9 things day in and day out. It takes you about 2 weeks to navigate MyFitnessPal quickly and easily. But I did a monologue yesterday about calories in, calories out, using starvation as an example that calories really do matter. Because yesterday I had a picture of prisoners of war, just bones and sinew, all of them starving to death. Not one fat person in there. Nobody said, "Oh, well, he has a thrifty gene, that's why he's 280 pounds." And hormones don't play a role, because these guys were under stress. Cortisol supposedly makes you fat. Stress makes you fat. I'm sure their sex hormones tanked, but if you start to look at your diet, just look at what you eat now. Don't say, well, I want to eat 15. Just start tracking what you eat now and observe what happens over the couple weeks. And if you don't gain any weight and you don't lose any weight, now you have someplace to start. Okay, I'm gonna take 150 calories a day away from myself. And I can do that easily because I've been tracking. I know what I need to do. When you start tracking nutrition, what you find out is really individualization. What works for you doesn't necessarily work for everybody else. So individualization is the most important. It's a journey that took some of us who weren't paying attention a decade to figure out because we weren't paying attention. But it's the greatest gift you can give yourself to know what works for you and what doesn't work for you. What do you think?
I agree 100%. There was a track coach back in the, 60s maybe, who said something to the extent of if we can't measure it, we can't improve it.
Right.
And it's kind of true. If there's so much that we can measure now, I mean, technology is at our fingertips to measure the amount of food we're eating, to measure our body composition, to track what we're doing in the gym. There's apps that will do this for you. And so tracking is probably hands down the best way to individualize your program. The idea that you can do a genetic test to determine your diet has not been substantiated yet. The biggest study done looking at high carb versus low carb basically showed no difference in between individuals who were matched based upon this genetic hypothesized predisposition to low carb versus high carb diets. So we're not there yet. We don't know the genes that dictate someone's response to exercise. And the genetic code is like this massive cookbook. You change one ingredient and all the other ingredients change as well. So we're a long ways off of that, and really just making observations and the very basic scientific method of observation, hypothesize, test it, reassess it, and go from there is about all you can do.
The most important thing when we talk about body composition, altering body composition, and the intersect of diet is that we're lacking is an easy and accurate way for someone to assess how much energy they use in a given day. Because we have people that go, I'm only eating 1,600 calories a day, but I'm not losing weight. And how can that be? And it's because your particular metabolic rate maybe can get by easily on 1,600 calories a day. And that's actually all you use in a day. And so when we talk about diet, like professionals who do diets for athletes, they have these arbitrary targets. Well, we're going to start out with 11 calories per pound of body weight, see what happens. And if you start losing weight there, they'll keep you there. If you don't lose weight, then they back it down to 10, to 9, because they're trying to zero in on your own unique energy expenditure day in and day out. Without knowing that, you don't know if you're eating too much or you're not eating enough. And that is individual, and it's dynamic. It's changing. It changes based on how well you sleep. It changes based on how much activity you actually get. It changes based on your ability to recover from workout to workout. It's a moving target. So this idea that there are people out there who go, well, I can't lose weight no matter what. Oh, it's because my thyroid. All that stuff goes out the window when you look at starvation. Starving people have compromised thyroid hormone, compromised sex hormone. They have compromised microbiota. They live under stress. They don't sleep. And yet they lose weight. They lose body fat. They become so lean. You've got to know how much energy your body uses before you can figure out your own individual response to dieting. And that's a big one to me.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. A couple things to add to that is, number one, most people, when they track their calories, they underestimate how much they actually eat. So, that person that's saying I'm eating 1,600 calories and I can't lose weight, very well could be eating 2,100, 2,200. But if you're tracking the same way day in and day out, then it's relative, right? You know that what you're eating is not producing the results that you want. And if your goal is weight loss, then you need to eat a little bit less. And, your other point is absolutely correct. It is a moving target. And also, as you do lose weight, we do see adaptations to how much energy you expend. And so as a result of eating in a caloric deficit, and this is going to vary highly from individual to individual, but your total daily energy expenditure is also likely going to decrease. Some of that is physiological, and some of that is unconscious behavioral. Your spontaneous movement becomes less and less.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep has an effect on this too. Individuals who don't get enough sleep and are sleep deprived tend to have less spontaneous movement, or what we define as non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So fidgeting, getting up, walking around more, pacing when you're on the phone versus sitting down, that kind of thing.
Yeah. This has been a great discussion. Those of you who like Dr. Jason Cholewa, email me at onair@superhumanradio.net, and we'll have him back on. Tell me what you want to hear him talk about. Also, there may be an opportunity for him to start teaching online. If you would like to know more about that, onair@superhumanradio.net. Sorry, I'm getting all. This next break, I'll be able to blow my nose. Then everything will be better. Jason, thanks for being here today, brother.
Yeah, my pleasure. Really enjoyed it.
Take care. When we come back, we're going to have Logan Cristopher on. We've always heard that phytoestrogens are the pox, not the monkeypox, just the pox. But is there a good thing about phytoestrogens? And is it all come down to baby talk, good and bad, like my good friend Joel Green likes to talk about? Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. I would easily say that I am the hugest proponent you will ever meet to doing anything that will improve the quality of my sleep. And that's because sleep is linked to just about every metabolic disorder we see in our population today. One of the easiest things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep is to get a pillow that can be shaped into the exact form factor that allows you to get your best night's sleep. And that is MyPillow. I've been sleeping with MyPillow for a few years now, and I can tell you that when I have to travel and stay in hotels, I don't get a good night's sleep because I don't have MyPillow with me. Right now, you can save up to 60% off of everything offered to improve the quality of your sleep at shrnetwork.biz/mypillow when you use the code SHR. Or you can call toll-free 800-889-4938. And remember to use code SHR to save up to 60% off of everything at their website. Are you suffering from signs of an unhappy gut? Diversity is the key to healthy, robust inner ecosystem. Body Ecology probiotic liquids are made by fermenting organic seeds, biodynamic brown rice, and chickpeas together to create a diverse culture found nowhere else on earth. It's the secret to restoring your gut's microbiome for a healthier digestive tract, improved immune function, and longevity. Take 20% off by visiting the website shrnetwork.biz/bodyeco. shrnetwork.biz/bodyeco. That's BODYECO. And using the code SHR20. The Hercules Pre-Workout from Lost Empire Herbs is like no pre-workout you have ever had before. Completely natural formula designed specifically to optimize workouts, provide quicker recovery time, provide adequate nutrition, and get you away from all those no-good, overstimulating pre-workout supplements. supplements on the market today. The Hercules Pre-Workout Blend is a mix of extracted natural herbs and mineral pitch. No fake colors, no added flavors, nothing else. Not only will Hercules Pre-Workout formula help your workouts, but you'll likely discover lots and lots of side effects, beneficial side effects. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Lost Empire today to learn more. Hey, you've heard me talk about Masszymes from Bioptimizers for years now. It's a safe and natural digestive enzyme supplement that's for men or women that specifically helps you digest the protein in your diet. I never have a meal without at least 3 Masszyme capsules, and that's because I want every bit of amino acids from the protein I eat day in and day out to help this 64-year-old body continue to build new muscle and strength. Well, I can tell you how you can get a free bottle of Masszymes plus 3 free ebooks as a bonus, total gift worth over $81. You'll not only receive a free bottle of the best digestive enzyme for turning all the protein you eat into muscle-building amino acids, but you'll also receive the book From Sick to Superhuman, Plant-Based Superfood Delights, and the Ultimate Carnivore Cookbook, absolutely free with your free bottle of Masszymes. Take advantage of this opportunity fast because it won't last long. Go to shrnetwork.biz/freemassme, that's FREEMASSME, and see why I will never stop taking Masszyme. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/whiteoak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 10% off your entire first order.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. We're ripped and we're ready.
So we have been told that phytoestrogens are the pox, but we are going to talk to Logan Cristopher about some blasphemy that phytoestrogen is actually good. How you doing, Logan?
I'm doing great.
So, Joel Green likes to say that we've been reduced to baby talk when we talk about nutrition and science in general. This is good. That's bad. And the reality is nothing is only good or bad in different settings. So explain to my audience what value phytoestrogens can actually provide and what are good sources of it.
Right. Well, I think to understand this, you have to go into a bigger picture conversation. One is just realize how common phytoestrogens are. So everyone's heard of the big ones like soy, flax, hops, which certainly do have a lot more, but there are phytoestrogens in apples, in carrots, in olive oil, in coffee, in mint. If you look out in there, you'll find these are very pervasive out in nature, and that's because nature is operating with androgens and estrogens just like humans do, right? So they're actually everywhere. So again, it's not this good versus bad. It's which ones, what amounts are right, and looking at the other factors that are involved in there.
So this is fascinating. So there are phytoestrogens in a lot more things than we think. Mm-hmm. That alone, but and that would make sense because, we've evolved over millions of years. One of the things that we came in contact through our evolution were cannabinoids. And as a result, our body has developed an endocannabinoid system because it uses those cannabinoids for good. Now, we're not talking about smoking weed, which is not wrong, but we probably ate a lot of leafy foods that had cannabinoids. And just the same way our mitochondria infected our cells and became a valuable tool, the endocannabinoid system is a valuable tool. We're seeing that stimulating it can actually cause Parkinson's disease symptoms to go away, for instance. Mm-hmm. No one would say that that's a bad thing. Well, we've also been exposed to these phytoestrogens for millions of years, mm-hmm. and they haven't wiped us off the planet, and our body has probably found a way to use them. So give me some examples of why a phytoestrogen would be good for me, given what circumstances.
Okay, so with phytoestrogens, basically the action of these is Estrogenic compounds are going to attach to different receptors. They may mimic estrogen inside the body. They may block the receptors, so actually your own estrogen, and men and women both have estrogen, like men and women both have testosterone, your own estrogen may not be able to get to that receptor, thus you may get different effects in that as well. So this binding affinity is a big part. And then based on other factors, they may be having some different benefits as well. So again, I think looking at the picture of what else, everything else going on, one of the big differentiations that is really important is understanding the difference between xenoestrogens and phytoestrogens. So xeno meaning alien or foreign. These are man-made chemicals, bisphenol A, phthalates, parabens, a whole bunch of things. A lot of people have heard of this term. Yeah. And really,
they're endocrine mimicking compounds, but they're man-made, they're synthesized.
Yes, and only some of them are xenoestrogens, where they're actually having estrogenic action. Other ones are directly anti-androgen or anti-thyroid, having a wide range of different actions in our body. These
so let's talk about those for a second. So like phthalates that make flexible plastic, they're anti-androgens. They dock in the androgen receptor and they block testosterone and DHT's beneficial activities. What are some of the other xenos that block?
Oh, there's so many. Glyphosate is an endocrine disrupting chemical, acetaminophen. So a wide range of chemicals have these, and plastics is one of the biggest things in pesticides. So what you get in your tap water, skincare, these are kind of the big sources. So my opinion is you want to reduce down, eliminate as much as possible xenoestrogens, because we didn't evolve with these. This is stuff that is very new as far as its effects, and this is a large reason why we're seeing the population level decline in testosterone, a wider range of chronic problems, cancers, all sorts of different things throughout our populations, because these are pervasive. They're in the very air that we breathe, and it's very tricky because BPA free is a thing you're seeing on lots of plastics these days.
Yeah, but they went to BPS and it does the same
BPS, BPF. So they're just replacing it with another bisphenol that is having the likely very much the same actions. So as much as possible, you want to reduce these. These I do not think are going to have any positive effect on the body. That's just going by the rule of thumb that natural things tend to be better. So reducing these down, then with phytoestrogens, I'm not recommending that people eat a bunch of tofu or soy. I think these ultra processed foods, especially genetically modified, all the other problems with them, this is not something that was done naturally in people's diets. My understanding is in Japan and surrounding areas, when they had soy, it was always fermented, which is likely to have some sort of interaction with the phytoestrogens as well as other compounds in there. So I personally eat miso, but I don't really eat soy outside of that. So this isn't something that I'm like, have to stay away from that completely, because I think that's actually going to have some benefits. And if you look at the research on soy, it's conflicted, as most research is. There's some saying that there's positive benefits from this stuff, others saying that there's negative benefits.
So I want to mention something. So one of the things that is hard to ascertain is when you look at a receptor's domain. So a receptor, imagine a receptor as a concave mushroom, and it's got all these little domains in there. It's not one monolithic receptor. It's got this portion here does this and this, and estradiol, when it docks in there, it activates the entire receptor. But some of these phytoestrogens can be thought as selective estrogen receptor modulators, SERM, because we know that women who have estrogen dependent cancers don't seem to react to soy products, which means that the phytoestrogen, while it does dock in the receptor, it doesn't do what estradiol does. So when we start talking about the selective estrogen receptor modulator effect, now all of a sudden phytoestrogens don't sound so scary.
Right. So that's the thing. With our reductive science, we're trying to look down at this very small level, and it's really easy to lose the forest for the trees when you're looking at that. And there's always deeper and deeper down that we go. Okay, so it's docking to this thing, but how is it docking? How is it changing its effects? So that's one of the things where I look at this and saying, like, you don't need to avoid them completely in moderation, because once again, they're a lot more pervasive than many people think. Having phytoestrogens in your diet is not necessarily a bad thing. In a previous show, we talked about pine pollen and the phytoandrogens it contains.
Right.
Obviously, this is great. So this contains human testosterone, DHEA, as well as some of the other ones, as well as the novel phytoandrogens, gibberellins, racinosteroids, that is having some of this action on the androgen receptors, right, in very beneficial ways. But pine pollen also has beta-sitosterol, which is a estrogen, right? So it's not necessarily an either-or thing. Obviously, we can push the balance.
Isn't beta-sitosterol implicated in helping men who have prostate problems?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things here. And with the prostate, even though this was blamed on DHT for a long time, actually estrogen seems to be, in more of the more recent research, a lot more implicated in there. So I'm thinking that a lot of these prostate problems, which are, once again, extremely common, a lot of the xenoestrogens or the endocrine disrupting chemicals is likely having a result on there. That's why, breast cancer is so common in women and prostate cancer is so common in men, among other reasons, but that definitely is playing a role in there.
Let's talk about Cistanche. Am I pronouncing it right?
Yep, Cistanche.
So what are the main benefits of using Cistanche?
So Cistanche has a couple of nicknames. There's Cistanche in your pants and the stalk enlarger. So that speaks to some of the direct sexual benefits that this one brings. That is certainly some of its most popular uses. In addition to that, this is a herb that I really like. It gives a great, there's just a good, powerful feel to it. It's used inside of our Hercules pre-workout formula.
I was just gonna say
Yeah, I really like that feel, but also a lot of research showing that this is having immune system benefits, quite a wide range of these as well. So it's a really powerful herb that is doing a whole lot.
Is there anything people should know about sourcing their Cistanche? Is there organic or?
Yeah, this is grown mostly in the Mongolian, Tibetan plateaus and areas around there. It's a desert plant, and actually a parasitic one. A few different species are used kind of interchangeably. In this case, that seems to work out quite well. Obviously, the general stuff of organically grown, or in many cases, you're probably getting wildcrafted of this. That's going to be quite beneficial. And that's the other thing when we're speaking of herbs. I'm not aware of any specific phytoestrogens in Cistanche, but some other ones that are known for men's sexual health, like horny goatweed, that has phytoestrogens in it, yet it is specifically for this reason. So some people see that and, they get scared because it's phytoestrogens, but really with the amounts and recognizing that these can have some benefits, I think that's useful. I mean, ginseng
and because there's SERMs, there's selective estrogen receptor modulators, and let's not forget that estradiol in men plays a huge role in libido. And if you don't believe that, just go back to the bodybuilding boards back in the 90s when everybody was using ADT, which is a very, very powerful aromatase inhibitor. It's a suicide inhibitor. And a single dose could reduce the estrogen in your body to 0.
Wow.
And everybody was losing their libidos.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody had a libido anymore when they were using ADT, and they were like, oh, the hell with this stuff. So estradiol is very, very important to the development of libido.
Yeah, and it's actually works on a bell curve. You need to have the right amount, because too little and you'll have libido issues. Too much can also be there. So it's definitely finding that sweet spot. That's important.
Now, someone messaged me a little while ago, and I don't know if this has been fixed, but is it true that you're back ordered on the Hercules?
Yes, unfortunately, I was seeing the ad for that, and we are back ordered at the moment on this.
So are you still taking orders and just back ordering them? Or
no, so there is a waiting list on the website, so you can get it when it is available. I will say it as a substitute for this, our Phoenix formula, we might be out of that as well, or I think we might have it in a version, but also our Spartan formula, those are also work quite well as pre-workouts and have the same ingredients.
For those of you listening, if you go to shrnetwork.biz/Lost Empire and use the code SHR, you'll get 15% off. The Hercules pre-workout has no caffeine in it. It has, are you ready for this? Black Ant, which I have tried, marrow root, Cistanche, cordyceps, rhodiola, and shilajit. And it's out of stock because people who use it swear by it. And I know that people use it not just for training and working out. They just use it on a daily basis because of the way it makes them feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty fascinating stuff.
Yeah. Personally, I just have greater work capacity with that. It's just I can do more, whether that's in the gym or otherwise.
Yeah, very
stuff.
good. I also want to mention that Lost Empire is a sponsor, which means that we always patronize the sponsors because they make the shows possible. If you've learned anything from this show a week ago, a month ago, the way to repay the show is to go over to Lost Empire and buy something. And that's the truth, because if they don't sell product, then the audience isn't receptive, and then they don't advertise anymore. So always patronize the sponsors whenever possible and let them know that you learned about them here on Superhuman Radio. Logan, thanks for being here today. Fascinating, and I won't fear the Reaper or phytoestrogens anymore.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks, brother. Thanks for being here. We'll talk soon.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We're going to take one quick commercial break, and when we come back, I've got my monologue for the day, so hopefully you'll be able to stick around. We shall return.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
The Hercules Pre-Workout from Lost Empire Herbs is like no pre-workout you have ever had before. Completely natural formula designed specifically to optimize workouts, provide quicker recovery time, provide adequate nutrition, and get you away from all those no-good, overstimulating pre-workout supplements on the market today. The Hercules Pre-Workout blend is a mix of extracted natural herbs and mineral pitch. No fake colors, no added flavors, nothing else. Not only will Hercules Pre-Workout formula help your workouts, but you'll likely discover lots and lots of side effects, beneficial side effects. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Lost Empire today to learn more. Are you 35 or older? Every year after puberty, your growth hormone decreases sometimes by 50% by the age of 35, and it only keeps going down from there. This affects everything from making it harder to recover from workouts, sleep, and a general loss of a sense of well-being. It also affects your ability to get and stay lean. BioPro Plus is the first of its kind, 100% non-synthetic alternative to prescription synthetic growth hormone treatments. All the benefits without any of the needles or side effects, and 100% safe. Previously only available through doctors, you can go to shrnetwork.biz/biopro, that's BIOPRO, and use code SHR30 for $30 off today. There have been no new innovations in men's underwear for hundreds of years. That's all about to change with Sheath. Sheath creates two separate compartments for your man stuff so it doesn't get smashed into a mound and sweaty and stinky. I won't wear any other underwear now that I've learned about Sheath, and you won't either. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Sheath underwear. That's SHEATHUNDERWEAR. Use code SUPERHUMAN to save 20% off. I promise you, once you try a pair of Sheath underwear, you will never wear anything else. GHKCU is one of the most effective peptides for rebuilding more youthful skin, reversing skin damage, diminishing wrinkles, and tightening loose skin. I personally use Restoracell with GHKCU every day. It's making an undeniable difference in the quality of my skin. Restoracell is fantastic for all types of skin. Now you can order Restoracell and save 25% when you use the code SHR25. That's SHR25. While you may be diligent in your workouts and your diet, don't neglect what people see first and foremost, and that's your skin. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blue and use use code SHR25 today. Are you suffering from signs of an unhappy gut? Diversity is the key to healthy, robust inner ecosystem. Body Ecology probiotic liquids are made by fermenting organic seeds, biodynamic brown rice, and chickpeas together to create a diverse culture found nowhere else on Earth. It's the secret to restoring your gut's microbiome for a healthier digestive tract, improved immune function, and longevity. Take 20% off by visiting the website shrnetwork.biz/bodyeco. shrnetwork.biz/bodyeco. That's BODYECO. And using the code SHR20.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. Don't hate us because we feel good.
Welcome back. I promise this monologue will be short because this is a long show. I started saying in 2006 when I used to do this show on Clear Channel at 1080 AM WKJK here in Louisville, Kentucky. Muscle is metabolic currency. So get into the gym and make a deposit today. I started saying that because early studies showed that those who carried muscle and its contributor to strength lived the longest and were the healthiest. The first study I've mentioned 1,000 times on this show was the California VA. Very simple. They followed a ton of guys over like 20 years. And the men who were the strongest at the beginning with leg press and maintained that strength were still alive at the end of the study. The guys who were the weakest and got weaker, they died during the study time. Studies have now been published correlating strength with longevity and strength with health span in both men and women. One study gave women who maintained their strength to 60 and beyond, and men 65 and beyond, lived longer and did not have the amount of age-related diseases. So I actually started saying live stronger, live longer on purpose. A lot of people thought it was supposed to be live longer, live stronger. No, if you are stronger, you will live longer. Strength begets longevity. This is proven in humans, not rodents, not all this other nonsense. So you must think about yourself as a body builder. Like, I know you're not a home builder, but you have a body, and it's up to you to maintain it. Your body naturally wants to lose muscle as you age. Like I said earlier, muscle is metabolically expensive. You must feed it. And the natural erosion of muscle is a disease called sarcopenia. And the older you get, the less muscle you have. But you have to change that. You must start to look at yourself as the builder of your body. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's say you have a house and you've lived in it for 30 years and it's fallen apart. And you keep putting duct tape on the cabinets to keep the doors from falling off. And, you know, the linoleum is peeling and you just keep stapling it down to the floor. That's maintaining. That's not good enough. You must upgrade. You can't keep taping the cabinets. You got to take the cabinets down, put brand new cabinets in. You can't just keep hoping the linoleum stays put. You got to tear the floor up and put new flooring down. You got to look at your body the same way. You got to look at your body like upgrading. When you go to the gym, that is your time to work on this old house. And your objective should be to continue to get stronger. You will get more muscle, but focus on strength, because strength can be measured day to day, week to week. You can have those tiny little goals that keep you invested for the long term. Your body will change. Diet will help you get leaner if you get a MyFitnessPal and start tracking your calories. And cardio will give you more energy. By the way, men who have a hard time lasting in bed, start doing cardio and watch what happens, because sex is just another aerobic activity. And if you can't jog or even walk for an hour, then how can you expect to last more than 5 minutes in bed? The greatest thing you can do for your sex life is to build up aerobic endurance and strength. So what I'm saying to you is this. Start thinking about building your body. Start thinking about changing the musculature in your body. Start focusing on strength. Try to get stronger from day to day and week to week. Because remember what I said. Besides saying that muscle is metabolic currency, so get into the gym and make a deposit today, back in 2006, I've also been saying for a decade, stronger is younger. If you're stronger today than you were last month, you are younger, because it will prolong your longevity. It will prolong you for being healthy. And let's not forget that frailty is one of the leading causes of death in people 70 years old and older. Be anti-frail. Get strong. Make that your goal. Make your goal. I don't care if you don't have a gym to go to. Do push-ups, do sit-ups, do pull-ups, whatever you have to do. But do things that you can measure and increase your strength in, and you will live longer. End of story. End of story. So that's my monologue for today. So get into the gym. Muscle is metabolic currency. Get into the gym and make a deposit today. Be younger tomorrow than you are today. Get stronger. And we'll see everybody tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to share the show. Thank you very much.